Hello, Phil. You went to Club Fabric meetup a few weeks ago, but there we are at Las Vegas at the FabConf. So I want to interview you about data modeling and what you see in your job. But first of all, can you just introduce yourself and tell us what you do daily?
Sure, no thank you. So my name's Phil Seamark. I work on what was called the Power BI CAT team, but I think we're now called the Fabric CAT team, obviously. And we're a small team. We engage with large enterprise customers. And this is a two-way engagement that we typically have. We learn from them what they're trying to do, what they're trying to build, what the gaps are in the product, so we can try and hopefully get those addressed. But we also help them get the best out of our product too. Because with large enterprise customers, they're typically dealing with high volumes of data, high numbers of people all trying to open reports at the same time, and you really need to make sure that things are running very smoothly and that you've got everything set up in the best way to make sure that the reports are loading quickly and everyone's happy. Great.
And regarding data modeling, what is your vision? What do you see at clients?
Well, I see a mixture of things, and I certainly always enjoy it when there's a good report that a lot of people can use in their day job to help them do their day job very well. And often these reports are put together by people who are citizen developers. They're not necessarily world experts. They can, So that's generally the positive side. Sadly, I'm often pulled in when things aren't going so well, but I do always enjoy the opportunity of working with other people on my team and customers to get a successful resolution, which we generally are able to do. So,
good. For you, what is, in the data modeling area, what is the hardest concept to understand?
I think from my perspective, and I focus very much on the data model itself, and in the Fabric world that is the Fabric semantic model, is just making sure that when you're writing your calculations, you understand the impact that can have and how much compute is required to generate that calculation. You know, maybe a report takes 40 seconds to load. That's probably an indication that you're not doing it necessarily the right way. So how do you solve that? That's not necessarily that well known. You know, being able to take the queries that are driving those calculations and dive under the covers to see how they're going about getting the information and arriving at the result. Because it's like other technical domains, often if you organise and structure and write your code a different way, perhaps you might be able to do it far more efficiently in just a few seconds, for example. So quite often people will just write the calculation and look at the result, and not necessarily worry about diving down to see what is the impact that that's having on the machines underneath the covers. Because hey, when you open a report in single user mode and it goes okay, that's not necessarily the case if lots of people try and open the same report around the same time. And maybe we could do better at helping. We certainly try and get out in the community events like FabCon that we are at today and educate people. Those that are interested, here's what you can do, here's what you can look for to make sure that you're getting the best out of the engine. An analogy might be, I give you a Formula One car, a high performance, high spec, great vehicle, and you just decide to drive it around town in first gear. What we're trying to do is show you how to get into second gear, third gear, and make the most of that very powerful engine.
Good. And what is the most common mistake you see at customers?
Yep. Okay, no, that's a great question. My perspective, I think a lot of customers get quite far down their journey building a product without reaching out for expert help. Perhaps engaging with a partner or pulling someone in for a couple of weeks at the design phase, perhaps throughout the process, because sadly all too often, and especially in my case, we generally hear about, hey, we're having a bit of a problem. We need to go live in the next couple of weeks. We've been building this product for months and months and months, and it's not working. Can you really help us? This is urgent. And then when you connect with them, have a look at what they've been doing and what they've done, and perhaps if they had taken the time to get an expert partner, and there are lots of partners around the world who are good at doing data modelling. So, having those people much earlier in the process often increases your chance of getting a successful outcome. Because sometimes when I do get engaged, I am not doing things that are unique or not well known, and perhaps, as I said, if it had maybe been done earlier in the project, you wouldn't have the stressful situation at the end. So that's probably it. And we've got good Microsoft reps. They know how to get hold of people as required. So definitely ask for help. Don't just try and build build it all yourself.
What is your favorite feature in Power BI related to data modeling?
Oh, that's easy. I'm a huge fan of aggregations because I'm lazy. Well, let's say efficient. I think too often people will have a very big table, hundreds of millions of rows or even billions of rows, and they'll try and put all their calculations over that table for everything. And that's a lot of scanning, that's a lot of work. You will get the correct result, no doubt. But aggregations is the concept of having summary tables, pre-calculated tables, perhaps at day or week or even month, and having many of these, and depending on the calculation, choosing the appropriate one. Now you can either do this yourself, which does take a little bit of work, or you can rely on maybe one of the features inside Power BI that unlocks aggregations. Either way, I think by making sure that when a DAX calculation runs, that it does the least amount of work as possible, will certainly give you the best outcome, both in terms of query speed, page loads, how much compute you're using, what sort of SKUs you can use, and it's not too hard, it's not rocket science, but it does take a little bit of time to think, okay, why don't we introduce half a dozen aggregate tables and take advantage of those, and the more you hit them, the better off you're going to be. So that's personally my what I would generally go to as a good way to speed up any semantic model.
Okay, so let's go to the fun questions. So do you prefer Star-Schema or One Big Table?
Oh, absolutely Star-Schema. We have tried many times, and I'm talking specifically about the Power BI Analysis Services engine. It definitely loves Star-Schema, and that's true whether you're using direct query, that's true whether you're using import, and it's also true whether you're using the new direct lake storage mode as well. Time and time again, you will get. There are some exceptions around the edge, but again, you'll have the best success if you try and avoid the one big table in the Power BI engine.
More difficult, Star-Schema or Snowflake-Schema?
I try to go Star-Schema. So what Star-Schema is in my world is you have your fact table and there's only one relationship to the dimension. Now dimensions are generally, their purpose is for grouping and filtering data, organising data. They should typically be quite small, and relationships come at a cost. A compute cost. Some of the things we talked about earlier in this interview are about keeping your eye on where that compute and the time is spent for any given query. Now, the more relationships you have, then the more compute is likely to be needed to figure out all these relationships. So generally, I think one is typically enough. So my personal preference is Star-Schema and making sure that you've got the appropriate dimensions. But don't try and treat your fact table as a dimension table, so do try and avoid having dimension columns, especially to populate slices, grouping and filtering. It's not an efficient way to go.
Okay. Kimball or Inman?
I don't really mind. I think a lot of it probably comes down to what your expertise is. My understanding of Inman is much more a data warehousing approach, bottom up. Whereas Kimball sort of likes to think of perhaps having more smaller models, definitely Star-Schema. So I think I probably would slightly favour one, but I would never try and argue that one is definitely the only way to go in all scenarios. So if you're a fan of Inman and you know you can get it to work, that's awesome. But the chances are I'd probably prefer the Kimball, many smaller models, Star-Schema. In fact, I'm actually quite a fan of microcubes, and I think with Fabric, that now makes that a lot easier as well. So what I mean by microcubes is perhaps I have a big organisation in Europe, and they have one model that has data for Germany, France, and UK, etc. Well, why not have multiple models and just data for those? That's a lot easier to do now, and you spread the compute. The chances are those models will be on different physical machines, so there's concurrency benefits there. Yes, as a admin, you now have to look after a few more models, but that's getting easier and easier with scripting, semantic link and semantic link lab inside Fabric. So I think there's going to be that's going to be a lot easier to do, and more people will have success with that approach.
Very insightful. And can you say Data Vault is not an analytical modeling pattern?
Okay, so before I started Microsoft, I did a couple of years contracting for government organisations in New Zealand, and they were quite big fans of Data Vault. I'd never heard about it before, so I got the opportunity to try hands-on, learn and build it. Now, that implementation, the end result of Data Vault was producing dimension and fact tables. So from that point on, Power BI was happy. I can't say I was a good fan about how much work was required to do these, I forget even the words, the hubs and the various things to get it. It seemed to be an awful lot. I probably prefer the layered stages that such as bronze, silver, gold, or my era, because I'm old, load, stage, persist. They all just different flavours of the same layered nature. I think for my personal, and please don't take this the wrong way if you are a fan of Data Vault, is it does seem to be an awful lot of work to probably get an outcome that other methodologies maybe just are simpler and just as effective at. However, it works, and can't say I actually hear about it too much in my world as someone at Microsoft dealing with enterprise customers. So,
and the last question is if you have any recommendation for our community to learn data modeling or to be better with data modeling, what is it?
It depends on the individual. Certainly get hands-on. I think having a personal project is a fantastic way to do that, because if you're passionate about a topic and you go, I'm going to create a model to do that. Now, it could be as simple as I want to create a simple model that looks after my personal finances, or I have a hobby. You know, I want to help and create a model that looks after some club I work with. Now, those two things combined mean you inevitably get stuck. And then you can go to your favourite search engine and find the solution, but because you're actually building it yourself, that's one way that you can probably get up to speed very quickly. The community.powerbi.com website, which is probably community.fabric.com, is also an excellent way to learn, because what you see there is people posting problems. They're trying to do something and they're stuck, and people who are very knowledgeable come in and give, hey, have you tried this, have you tried this, have you tried this? And these are probably problems that you're not necessarily going to get exposed to in your day job, but if you do take the time to read some of those, read the answers, and even have a crack at answering themselves, I think it's a fairly cheap, easy way to learn, over on top of what the excellent material that we have on MS Learn, all the self-paced, free online tools that we have available on Microsoft, plus all the other fantastic content that you get at community conferences like FabCon. Join your local user group. That's another way, because you will get to chat with other people who are doing things in different ways. Some people are very much trying to build models to solve inventory problems. Other people are into retail, others are in finance. So, and if you get along to your local user group, quite often you hear people talk about what they built and where they got stuck, how they solved it, and what the benefits were. So that's another multifaceted bit of everything.
Perfect. Thank you, Phil. Thank you for your time.
No, thanks for inviting me.
And see you next time in Paris, maybe.
Yep, absolutely. No worries.